In late 2019, Bayley finally went through a transformation I think we were all ready for. After years of being a lovable hugger, she ditched her goody two-shoes ways and embraced the dark side. She even cut her hair and got a new entrance, which is the definite sign that we are in bad guy territory. It was all rather welcome. That doesn't mean it was a smooth ride to get here though. Through no fault of her own, she was dragged over the coals a little, and the amount of soft turns she had meant there was even some worry this one wouldn't last. It's why the visual change was needed. WWE had confirmed they were finally going all in. It does mean there's certain things we have to sweep under the rug, and it does mean that I'm Simon from What Culture. This is 10 things WWE wants you to forget about Bayley. Number 10, the reason for her turn. As good and as needed as it was, we really didn't get a reason as to why Bayley went heel, which has become a common issue within WWE. People just go bad because it's fun, I guess. So after Bales had attacked Becky Lynch with a chair on Raw, she kinda just carried on as normal. It was weird, there was no consequences, she still walked down the aisle with her inflatable buddies, and we were all left wondering what the deal was. It was clear WWE were holding all this off for when they jumped to Fox, but if that was the case, why start it in September? Just wait. There is a counterpoint to this, that doing an instant 180 feels disingenuous, but this was still a little too delayed and felt confused. If nothing else, we just wanted a good reason for taking this path, and we didn't really get it. WWE has become the land of, I don't owe you an explanation, and it's a lazy cop-out every time. Number 9, how one-dimensional her gimmick became. Before Bayley was called up, a lot of people thought she could be the female John Cena. What that meant was she had a persona that kids could get behind, and that was needed, a fact in WWE that's proven, given their biggest audience is the over 50s. Bayley could have appealed to children with ease. Instead, it seemed as if Vince McMahon thought her gimmick was one where she was actually a kid herself. Bit baffling. So she would skip around and not really give two hoots about anything. It was fine at first because the fans loved her for it, but it never evolved, and we know how that goes. The audience gets tired of the same thing and slowly goes quieter and quieter. Rush title changes and fake heel turns didn't help either, and it's why there was no choice but to make her a Billie Eilish bad guy at the end of the day. I mean, what else could we have done? It is a shame though. There should have been something there. Number 8, fans started booing long before the turn. The real signs that it wasn't going well happened all the way back in September 2017. Heading out to cut a promo, she announced that she would miss her SummerSlam match against Alexa Bliss through injury, and looked pretty sad about the whole thing. It was too much though, and rather than come across as sympathetic, Bayley seemed melancholic, so the fans booed her out the place. Pretty horrible, all things considered. Oddly, it was almost like this was expected, as Bayley even said, "Come on, guys." If this had led to a turn, it would have made sense, but we've already addressed that it did not. It was just a moment in time where the crowd and Bayley didn't seem eye to eye, but who cares? It took 2 years before there was a payoff, and at that time it wasn't a payoff at all. It was just a thing that happened. Still, go and watch this if you like cringe-worthy TV. It's just bad from the word go and completely ill-judged. Sometimes WWE is a baffling place. You could have seen this a mile off. Number 7, WWE took her popularity for granted. You can find many times on the main roster where Bayley was over like Rover. Hell, during a Raw in Scotland in 2016, fans were so behind her they wouldn't let Charlotte Flair do her promo. Every time she tried, the audience burst into the "Hey, hey Bayley" chant and completely upended the show. You couldn't hide the smile on the hugger's face, and I would like to apologise for doing that chant. I hate myself too. Rather than capitalise on it, however, WWE assumed her popularity was self-assured regardless what they did, so they didn't protect her at all. Sometimes she won, sometimes she lost. She had that bizarre Extreme Rules match with Alexa Bliss that we're going to talk about later. If this was to be maintained, there had to be a set plan in place, and when there wasn't, it all flew away like a bird. That's not exclusive to her either. We've seen it time and time again, but that doesn't make it any better. Should be organically changing with the times, and we did not, so I am upset. Number 6, her main roster title reigns haven't been that memorable. Bayley is a Triple Crown and Grand Slam champion. She won the Raw title, the SmackDown title, the NXT title, and the damn Money in the Bank. If she ever wins the Royal Rumble, she will have done it all. In terms of holding the gold though, try and think of a reign that didn't involve NXT. They don't really come flooding back. Her current one, as I say these words, has something to it as it represents her new character, but if we go back in time, it's not great reading. Her first Raw run only lasted 76 days, it was the same on SmackDown, and if you've already forgotten her feud with Ember Moon, don't worry, most people have, it just came and went. The real missing ingredient is she needs a key program and not one that ends in a day. We teased that with Sasha Banks, but we know how that went, and while her battles with Charlotte are slightly above this, we could definitely do more. Whether we get that, who knows, but I'm telling you, it would help. Number 5, her WrestleMania debut was an afterthought. Let's go back to that Raw title run. Bayley had a match at WrestleMania with that on the line and won. Again, don't remember, it's okay, it's not your fault. It was lost in a bloated card of 12 matches, so didn't really make much noise. It was at Mania 33 in a fatal 4-way against Charlotte, Nia Jax and Sasha Banks, which ended after 12 minutes. Quite the step away from the previous year when Sasha, Charlotte and Becky had torn it up in a triple threat. What's worse is that moments later the Hardy Boys returned and nobody ever thought about anything else. It wasn't just this match either that got lost on this night, but we should and could have done so much more given the lay of the land. I wouldn't call it filler, but it didn't hit the highs it could have done because it wasn't allowed to. Other people took priority. Number 4, those friend zone things. One of the most infuriating parts of Bayley's career is when WWE pretended her and Sasha Banks were going to feud, and then they did not. Then they were going to feud, then they weren't again. It was nuts and bizarre. Instead, WWE decided to try and recapture the magic they had with Daniel Bryan and Kane by sending Banks and Bayley to therapy, and they did the same thing. Dubbed the friend zone, it was a misfire, and it went on forever. Also, Sasha and Bayley were told to try and play it seriously, and that was never going to work. It was too goofy. That's why Team Hell No got over. They played it for laughs, and that's absolutely what we should have done here. Finally, it's not what fans wanted to see. After months of teasing, we thought we were going to get a feud like the one that had lit up NXT, but it never happened. We had Dr. Shelby skits in its place. We all tuned out before long until the conclusion they were mates again. So I guess the therapy worked, but still. No. Number 3, WWE had no women's tag team title follow-up. There was a rumor in early 2019 that Vince McMahon wasn't high on the women's tag team titles being introduced, and I can believe that. He doesn't seem overly behind any tag team championship, so why a new one would take his fancy, I don't know. Hence, as soon as Sasha Banks and Bayley had become the first ever holders of these new belts, there was no plans. They pretended they were going to tear it up on Raw, SmackDown and NXT, but boy did that not happen. It's been the same for the Iconics and the Kabuki Warriors ever since they got hold of these deadweights too, because we haven't ever had a proper feud involving any teams. Matches just happen, and then usually the champions vanish from television. It's never going to get the fans invested. If WWE doesn't care, how can I? We'll have to see if this changes going forward, but you'd be forgiven for not believing it, and it certainly didn't help Bayley. She was lost to the abyss. Not the guy that used to be in TNA. Number 2, This Is Your Life. You already know what this is and you likely expected it here. Another time that WWE tried to recreate the past, this was bottom of the barrel stuff and everybody involved knew it too. You can see it on their faces. To sum it up, it was misplaced comedy as a ridiculous script took out both Bliss and Bayley in the process. It's doubly mad for the latter because she only appeared towards the end, but because she had been the focal point, she never stood a chance. It did not achieve its goal either. Nobody wanted to see Bayley kick Bliss's ass after this, and they probably hoped the feud would just end. It did eventually, and now it's just on lists like this. I cannot believe it. Now that Bayley has gone heel, we can start forgetting about things like this properly and hope for a brighter and new future. But just in case the people in charge haven't got the point, WWE, you don't always have to look back to go forward. This Is Your Life worked in 1998 or 1999, or wherever the hell it was. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work in 2017, 18, 19, 20. Sometimes maybe just read the words in the script that you've written down, and if something in your brain or your gut goes, that may not work, it probably means it's not going to work. Number 1, she was too nice to use weapons. What a ludicrous sentence, especially in the modern day. We have seen so much violence over the years in wrestling, we're almost desensitized to it, but even in Extreme Rules 2017, Bayley didn't want to use a kendo stick because she was too nice. In what world are fans ever going to get behind that? It was worse as this was the fallout from the It Is Your Life segment, and also was a kendo stick on a pole fight. A Vince Russo idea that must have fallen through the cracks. It made all this a disaster as that was the whole point of the fight. Get the stick and smack your opponent in the head. But nope, not for Bayley. This was too much and begged the question why she'd signed up for this in the first place. Alexa didn't feel the same, so kicked her ass with said weapon, and I will never understand this. I don't think it was the point. Also, given that any kind of good guy who does good guy things in WWE these days gets booed out of the place, Bayley should have got the weapon, she should have swung it like she was a crazy person, and probably won the title in the process. But instead, her deciding not to do that meant she lost, and that was the end. of that. Know everything else WWE wants us to forget about Bayley? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Then head over to whatculture.com and read yourself some articles, and follow What Culture on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. And hell, if you fancy it, why not watch more videos here on What Culture Wrestling? My name is Simon from What Culture. Thank you as always for tuning in, and I will talk to you very soon, unless you forget about me, and then I will cry tears of sadness.